Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Happy fucking Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. Happy Tuesday, guys. Alrighty, guys. I gotta put on my asshole glasses. Check. Hope you guys had a wonderful day off, guys. I had some stuff going on yesterday I had to take care of, as it would go. Tonight, guys, we're gonna be doing some more of Riftbreaker, though. After we get started, we're gonna cover the patch notes from Dead by Daylight. They made some knee-jerk reactions, which I don't think are required, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Needed. Not required, needed. We're going to have to do some performance tweaks to Riftbreaker, or attempt to at least. Because it's getting pretty sluggish. We'll see how it goes, though. It might just be the way that it's going to be, though. Love these things. A little bit crumbly, though. A little bit expensive, too. It's tough to get, like, prepackaged food that's just not going to kill you, unfortunately. Working with what I got, guys. It's the best I can do. We're going to cover the Reddits, too. And some of the tubes. Upload some videos. Pretty good. Anyways. Let's start things off here tonight, guys. We're going to take a look at the patch notes for Dead by Daylight. I'm going to talk a bit about that, and move on from there. Alrighty. So, they adjusted some things. Alrighty, so the developers made some knee-jerk reactions to Dead by Daylight, if you guys are curious about that, based on the reception that Dead by Daylight has had over the last couple weeks since the anniversary patch was released, mainly in response to some things that were going on with how hard things have gotten for survivors. I disagree. I honestly think that they reset MMR with the patch update, but one of the things that they did not foresee when resetting the MMR was not only the initial bitch fest, but if you have, let's say, streamers, which are a small vocal minority, and they round-robin killers, it will take an inordinately long period of time for them to get to max MMR if all they do is round-robin killers. The reasoning for that is because your other killers are differentiate from your top MMR killer by up to 200, according to them. I don't know if it's changed since then, from last fall. It will differentiate by up to 200 MMR. Now, if they play, let's say the starting MMR is like 1200, and they get to 1850, which is the highest MMR right now, as you guys can see here, 1950, as you can see on the chart here, it's something like 12 games if you get plus 50 per game, which would be a 4K. So you go 12 games on one character, it would get you to max MMR, assuming that's how the system still works. It'll take you 12 games to get there. But because not everyone 4Ks, we'll assume it's going to be a 3K, and it'll take you maybe 20 games to get there. Now, there are 28 killers in the game. And your lowest killer will differentiate from your highest killer by 200 MMR. And what that means is your highest MMR killer will only be whatever you play. It doesn't change your skill, obviously, but, you know, varying degrees, certain killers are going to perform better than other killers. If you round robin, so you go through all your killers once, it erases all your killers' MMR by plus 25. If you just played one killer, it would take you 20 games to get to max MMR, and then your other killers would just be below that by 200 MMR. But because you round robin killers, it will take you up to, was it 360 games in order to reach maximum MMR, assuming you round robin every single one of the killers, assuming you start at 1200 MMR, and assuming once again that it's plus 50 per match, and you know, everyone, you only have so many matches where you're going to 4K and 3K, so you end up with like plus, it's going to take maybe 20 games if you played one killer. So there's a lot of streamers that will round robin killers because they like to showcase their skill. They'll round robin killers, and as such, their MMR will very, very slowly climb because of the way that the system, the way that the game is designed, the system that DBD uses for MMR. It takes fucking forever to get to maximum MMR. Yeah, because people aren't actually playing one killer. It would probably work for other killers if they all played other killers, but because there's different MMR for different killers, the amount of time it takes you to get to maximum MMR takes a long fucking time. Long time. So you got a killer or streamer that will round robin basically all the killers, or majority of them. It's going to take them a shitload of days to get there, assuming they play like maybe, what, 20 matches per day. Each match is like 20 minutes, not 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 200 minutes, 4 hours, maybe even that's a little bit late, like 30 matches per day. So 300 minutes or 5 hours-ish. So 30 matches per day, you're looking at like, what, 15 days, 2 weeks to get to max MMR. Let's use a calculator here. 28, 560, not 360, 560 divided by 30. And once again, this assumes that they're 3K and 4K in all their matches. It's going to take them about 3 weeks to get to maximum MMR. That's a long fucking time. But that being said, they aren't going to round robin all the killers because a lot of streamers don't like certain killers, so maybe you could assume like 2 weeks, which is about what it's taking. So there's a long period of time in which streamers were basically trapped, but they weren't trapped, at lower MMR because they chose to play a variety of different killers, where we basically skyrocket to max MMR almost immediately because all I play is Nemesis. There's a lot of streamers that will not play just one killer. They'll play multiple killers. And as we saw when I was doing that, we ran into a shitload of people cheating and like Ultra Swifts at high MMR because those are the only squads that were consistently getting to high MMR. Right about now, we should actually be starting to see casuals get there, so people that solo queue starting to get up to high MMR too. Just like with your round-robining streamer. Unfortunately, a lot of people just assumed, once again, I'm very certain that they reset MMR. There's a lot of people that just assume that the way the game is right now is a product of the balancing changes they made. And it definitely partially is. However, I don't think that's the entirety of the story. I think a lot of the story was the fact that people are playing with people outside of their MMR. And that's just the way that's going to be until things realigned. So unfortunately, DVD had a knee-jerk patch in which they nerfed Thanophobia. And we're going to talk a little bit about this and why this doesn't make sense. We talked about this even prior. We talked about this during the anniversary update. Why the Thanophobia buff didn't really matter, because it's 2%. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We got to bring out our calculator again, which I closed. So, pre-patch, it takes 80 seconds to finish one generator. Or across the entire game, it takes 200 seconds, right? So with Thana, pre-patch Thana, you are looking at an additional, so 1.6... 16 seconds. Generator? So we know a perfect scenario, right? So 80 seconds is pre-patch. 80 seconds per gen. You are looking at an additional 16 seconds per generator. That's a lot, but once again, you don't get absolute Thana value. That's four people. Pre-patch Thana. Then you are looking at an additional 80 times 0.2 equals 0.6, there's no way. 16 seconds. So, you're looking at an additional 16 seconds per gen, and overall across 5 gens, what is that, like 3 minutes? Seconds. Fucking something up here. So 16 seconds. You are looking at the brain's not working today, guys. 50 plus 30, 80 seconds. We're looking at an additional 80 seconds of time across 5 gens. This is with Thana and perfect Thana value. You're looking at 16 additional seconds with 4 stacks, which isn't going to ever happen. And evening Supro, and across all gens, you would have a total, assuming once again 4 stacks all the time. You're looking at an additional 80 seconds, which is pretty meaty. But this was prior to the patch. This has existed for years. This has existed prior to patch, assuming you got perfect value, which you never are going to do. It would require 80 additional seconds. That's relatively decent amount of time, right? But that's once again pre-patch. That's something that's already existed, and was something that people could have done. All right, post-patch, you are looking at 90 seconds per gen, and a total of 450 seconds. Multiple ways of figuring that out. You're looking at 450 seconds. Okay, cool. So that adds an additional 10 seconds per gen. That means the extra value that you are getting, then post-patch value, you are getting an additional 1.8 seconds. Excuse me, 10. That means you were getting an additional 2 seconds per gen. This is prior to Thana being buffed, by the way. This is just without the Thana buff, which we'll look at in a second here. We're looking at additional 2 seconds per gen, and overall an additional 10 seconds per game on top of the original pre-patch Thana. Nothing. This is absolutely fuck all in terms of the additional time that is added per gen. Now we're going to look at Thana plus Thana post-patch buff post-patch. You are looking at an additional additional 2%, which is on the gens themselves, that would be 2% per gen would be 0.9 seconds. The buff value, by the way, assuming once again for stacks, which never happens. Which doesn't happen all the time. You're looking at an additional 2%. So the Thana buff was an additional 2%, and on 90 seconds, that would be roughly 0.98 seconds. It's 1.8 seconds per gen. And overall, that would be 9 seconds? Yeah. Overall, 9 seconds. But overall, the entire game, that will add an additional 9 seconds. That is jack shit. So the Thana buff added an additional 1.8 seconds per gen, and 9 seconds overall, assuming 4 stacks. Assuming 4 stacks, which you will never, almost never have. Assuming people can heal, which they can. Yeah. So if we put this all in the context, the pre-patch Thana versus post, you are looking at an additional 3.8 seconds per gen, and an additional 19 seconds overall. That I fucked this up for sure. Oh, we're just looking at the 10-second difference. 19 seconds overall. So you're looking at a difference of 3.8 seconds per gen and 19 seconds overall with pre-patch versus post-patch. So the difference of the Thana buff and the gen speed buff was adding on an additional almost 4 seconds, but not really per gen, which is jack shit, and 19 seconds overall, which is once again also jack shit. That's like, assuming a 40-second chase, that's half of a chase. So basically, very much pointless. The pre-patch versus post-patch Thana value, including the gen time, this includes additional 10 seconds gen time and 2%. So pre-patch versus post-patch, it added an additional 3.8 seconds per gen and 19 seconds overall. That's absolutely nothing. That is absolutely nothing in terms of the game. And they decided that Thana now needs a nerf. Not nerfing it back to pre-patch, by the way. Just nerfing it into non-existence. Now Thana is 2% instead of 5.5%. Yeah. That means it is basically going to be pointless. It's an additional... once again, you're almost never going to get 12%. So they buffed it. You get 2%, and you get 20% overall if all 4 survivors are injured. I guess it's kind of a cool mechanic, but that is a huge nerf, meaning it gets pre-patch value if all 4 survivors are injured, which almost never happens. So basically nerfed it into the ground. People aren't going to run this anymore. You're going to probably see anywhere from a 4 to 6% regression penalty or repair penalty to survivors. That's nothing. That is absolutely fuck all. The buff was bigger than. The buff was almost as big as that. Not as big as that. Almost as big as that. That is jack shit. And oftentimes you'll see anywhere from 1 to 3 survivors injured at any given time at high MMR, especially when people are cognizant of what's happening. You're never going to get 4 survivor value. That's like getting the 4th swing and downing a survivor when you're playing Legion, which almost never fucking happens. If it does, you're playing at low MMR. What happens is you get 1 to 2 hits if you're lucky, and then you gotta chase the second guy. And if you don't, usually you'll run out of steam, and then you won't be in chase with anyone anymore. So you can generally tell when Legions aren't very good because they'll overcommit to a chase, and they think they can hit like 3 or 4 survivors when they can't. You can suck my dick. There you go, I turned it down for you. Absolutely fuck all, guys. But anyways, this is a knee-jerk reaction to what was happening as survivors, and as you can see, it did almost nothing. The additional benefit from Thana after patch with the 2%, and in addition that is in addition to the 10 seconds, was 1.8 seconds, excuse me, 3.8 seconds per gen and 19 seconds overall. That's nothing in terms of the game. So the Thana buff did almost nothing. Even though people were knee-jerking about it, it did almost nothing in terms of the overall game. However, now we have a nerf where Thana is reduced even further than it was prior to the pre-patch. And it is basically going to be worthless. There's no reason to run it, because you could get more value out of something like even Pop, Overcharge, Call of Brine, Pain Resonance, which now they've reverted, which we'll talk about. That not completely reverted, partially reverted, which we'll talk about here in a second. Basically, just people jerked off and whined enough on the forums that they got this nerfed, despite the fact that it does almost nothing. It did almost nothing. Thana was not the reason that people are fucking losing games. If you're extra 4 seconds on a gen, with all 4 survivors hurt, by the way, extra 4 seconds on a gen is what's destroying your games, you have a lot more problems than Thanophobia. But this is what they did. They decided to nerf it. And once again, pre-patch is where the big meaty numbers come in, where it was actually doing stuff pre-patch. But even then, it's not really that great. Now, if you look at it in terms of, let's say, Pop Goes the Weasel, let's go, you can't really use Pop Goes the Weasel anymore because it's not nearly as good, and it's hard to quantify the value of Overcharge and Call of Brine, because not only can they be used in tandem, but you can't actually easily figure out the amount of regression you're going to get out of the perk before a survivor touches it again. So tough to figure out. Let's go with pre-patch Pop Goes the Weasel. You take 25%, we'll even apply it to current gens now, and you can't use the new version of Pop Goes the Weasel because once again it is prorated based on the amount of progress on the gen, to the point of it's pretty much pointless. Let's go with Pop Goes the Weasel. You get 5 hooks in a game, and assuming you use all 5 pops, that is 125 seconds. 125%, excuse me. And people will probably get more than 5 hooks per game, but let's go with 5 hooks. They'll get 5 hooks in the game. 125% of a gen, and you are looking at, with 25% of 90, 45, 22.5. Looking at 110.5 seconds. Which isn't nearly as good as pre-patched Thana value. Once again, you are not getting complete value out of gens. That's not even gens. 80 seconds. So you are comparing like 1:15 seconds, and you aren't even going to get that because 4 people are not going to be hurt for your entire game. And almost never will 4 people be hurt the entire game. But pre-patch Thana was getting 80 seconds. Overall. And if you're getting 5 hooks, you were sitting at roughly... $115, did I say? 122.5. That's not right either. 112.5. There we go. So pre-patch Pop was doing much more work than pre-patch Thana. And obviously pre-patch or Thana got pre-patch Pop got nerfed. Scourge hooks are still a thing, by the way. That's 15 seconds, but you don't need to manage your gens, which means you'll probably almost always get them. So much so that a lot of people will actually drop people on the way over to a hook. You ever done a pizza? Whatever is good for you. Sometimes they put spinach on pizzas. Not really against it. Sometimes you get into like the leafy greens that just kind of change. They change the texture of the pizza too much and make it stringy. Not a fan of that. Like kale or something that's put on pizzas. But anyways, guys, pre-patch Thana versus post-patch Thana, there was almost no difference in terms of usefulness, but it got nerfed into oblivion anyways because a lot of people were jerking off. Thana prior to patch was still good. Thana after patch was still good. But they weren't like, it wasn't nearly the same as other regression perks that you had prior to the patch, or what now you're capable of doing with Call of Brine and with Overcharge. It's completely different. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that assume that because they're seeing a lot of Thana now, because once again people flip out. There's a resurgence of perks where people are like, oh my god, they like rediscover perks that were forgotten about. They're like, oh my god, this perk is so useful now, when in fact it's not really useful. It's not any more useful than it was prior to the patch. But there's a lot of people that seem to think that it was, and it's not. Pre-patch and post-patch Thana are very, very similar in terms of performance. The extra 10 seconds on gen, which most people have not put into numbers, which we talked about here, and we've talked about even during the anniversary update, is almost nothing. A lot of people started running it because they assume there's going to be a lot of extra value. There isn't. There isn't. This is the extra value that you got after the patch. An additional 4 seconds per gen, roughly 4 seconds per gen, or 19 seconds overall. Completely different. Unfortunately, this is where we're at now. And there's a lot of people that knee-jerked about it simply because it's more popular. Thana is much more popular now, not once again because it's a better perk, but because people perceive it as a much better perk, when it's not. When you figure things out, when you figure out the sum of all the parts working together, it's not that much different than it was prior to patch. 19 seconds overall should not break your bank in terms of your game. Same thing with 3.8 seconds per gen should not break your bank. This once again assumes 4 people... This assumes 4 people are hurt at all points during the game, which they're not. You're going to have anywhere from 1 to 3 and more than likely 2 people. So even this is far-fetched compared to what's actually happening. There's a reason people weren't really running Thana that often. Like, it's cool to theorycraft about what it's good on. Like, it's good on Plague, it's good on Legion, right? It's good to theorycraft about stuff, but when they don't put numbers to what's actually happening, they just assume a lot of things that just, like, it's not happening that way. And in this case, there's a lot of people that just assume that Thana was doing a lot of work because it's more popular now, when in fact it's not really doing all that much more work than it was prior to patch. And it's just people knee-jerking. And so it's just people knee-jerking and jerking off to each other. So this was an unneeded nerf, and once again, I think this has a lot to do with people just assuming that, or a lot of people not understanding that MMR is just a little bit different right now, because definitely they reset MMR. I am very, very certain, based on the performance I've seen of other killers, especially over the last 2 weeks, other killer streamers, which now they're starting to finally go against people that can get gens done, is completely different than what it was before the buff. There's just people that aren't performing nearly the same. It has nothing to do with dead hard nerf. There's a lot of excuses people come up with, and they try to attribute it to the patch, but I'm very certain it is attributed to an MMR reset that we weren't told about. And in this case, this is another case of that, where there's people that just assume that pre-patch and post-patch Thana are completely different because of the extra 10 seconds on gens and the extra 2% on Thana. They aren't. And this is, once again, is a perfect game. This is 4 people hurt all the fucking time. And the only time you can kind of assume that's going to happen is when you're running Plague, which is a horrible killer at high MMR. Because people just won't get infected, or if they do get infected, it's on purpose. And just because someone's infected doesn't mean you can down them. There's a lot of reasons why, like, Thana wasn't run prior to the patch, and that still holds true even after the patch. It just, you are not guaranteed you're going to have 4 people hurt at any given moment. This was a knee-jerk nerf, and now it's gone from, we aren't going to go through the numbers because it's going to be a huge pain in the ants once again, but it's now 2%, which means you're going to have almost no regression. It's going to, not regression, preventative, I don't know what to call it, nerf, repair speed nerf. You're not going to have any repair speed nerf unless you get 4 survivors hurt, and that's almost never going to happen unless you're running Plague. And even then, once again, depending on your MMR, is going to determine whether or not that even happens. So you have 2% here, and it's probably going to sit about 4% per game, which is absolutely fucking terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible. This perk is worthless. It is not going to be run anymore. No one's going to use it. Even if you have 3 survivors hurt, that's 6%. You could run Penamento with Ruin, and then have a Penamento and then a Ruin. Or some other build that you want to use to get Penamento up, and you're going to have a lot more value out of it. There's a lot of other things that do exactly this much better. Thana is literally dead, and that's not hyperbole, that's not sensationalism. The perk is done. There's nothing to do, like, they could have removed the 2% and people would still bitch about it. This is completely gutting the perk, it's doing nothing. Yeah, so it goes back to 20%, which is the pre-patch value if 4 people are hurt. That's terrible. There's no way. That's absolute garbage. Let's move along. Medal of Man, which was not that used that often, but they changed how Medal of Man works now, where if you have conspicuous action, it will disable Medal of Man. Nope, it's not in the patch notes. Maybe they reverted that too. So here, they talk about Metal Man, conspicuous actions. Endurance effects are just removed by conspicuous actions, excuse me. So before that, it was not affected by conspicuous actions. There's a lot of people that assume that it's going to be horrible, because now conspicuous actions remove it. Once again, you can use defensive perks offensively. If you've ever seen someone with OTR, they'll just get in your way and just cockblock you. Yeah, that's an example of a defensive perk that is used offensively. And this happened even prior to the patch, where you have people that block. Cockblock is very, very common at high MMR. People do it all the fucking time to take a protection hit for their friends. So now, Metal Man now operates off 2 hits instead of 3 hits, so it means it'll be up much more often. And I don't even think that's a linear relationship where it's now, what, 50% more effective or something? 50% more effective now? I think it's the best way of looking at that. It's not going to be 50% more effective because your ability to get protection hits is going to be, like, it's an event that just happens in the game, and it's much easier to come by 2 protection hits than 3, where you have to spend inordinate amounts of time trying to gather them up. This basically allows you to prep this with 1 protection hit prior to a chase, basically, that you're going to need to be the go guy. And then when someone's getting tunneled, you can go in for another protection hit at full health. You'll take a protection hit, Metal of Man will activate, and then you'll have the endurance effect on the second hit. I don't even know if this is better than, like, let's say, it basically operates almost identical to Dead Hard, only and Dead Hard is on demand. Dead Hard just requires skill to use now, and it's still possible to use it. We've seen people use it in game, so it's going to be a little bit different, but yeah. Yeah. Buff, nerf, I don't know. Is this going to be used? I don't know. Why would you use this when you can use Metal or Dead Hard? I guess it's more guaranteed that you're going to take a protection hit, right? But Dead Hard is something that you can use on demand, and then a conspicuous action won't disable it, so yeah. Is Dead Hard still exhaust, too? Exhaust. I guess Metal Man doesn't cost exhaustion, so there's that. It could be an alternative to Dead Hard. And Dead Hard can still be used as just performance-based now, once again. So, maybe. It's definitely a buff to Metal Man. Will it make it viable? No idea. I have to wait and see after patch. It might just be, like a lot of Survivor perks, it might just come down to... personal preference. There's a lot of builds that you can play and a lot of options for survivors now, which is one of the reasons survivors are having so much problems, because they can't just go and just pick one item and just be fine with it. They can't just do the 3 builds that they see on Twitter and on Twitch and then be fine. That's just the way it goes, though, so yeah. We'll see. Sometimes if people have too many options, they don't know what to do, and it literally hurts them more than it helps them. So they brought back Pain Resonance Dead Man Switch, and then they nerfed the shit out of Dead Man Switch. So Dead Man Switch used to activate for 45 seconds, now it's 30 seconds. And Pain Resonance will now make interrupt survivors so that they'll get off the gen, and that means Dead Man Switch can activate, but Dead Man Switch only lasts for 30 seconds now. Does not notify the killer with a scream, yep. So, there's still the same downsides using Pain Resonance as there was in the patch, but it's now able to be used with Dead Man Switch. Does that mean everyone's going to use Dead Man Switch? Probably not. Even prior to the patch, there's a lot of people that weren't running Pain Resonance Dead Man Switch. Even though it was a good combo, people just weren't doing it. They just chose to use things like Pop Goes the Weasel or just Pain Resonance. Does this mean people are going to use this combo again? Probably not, but... And also it's nerfed. Prior to this, guys, there were other things you could do to get survivors off generators and lock them. Like if you're playing Crow Lady, you could hit people with crows and make them scream. Or Infectious Fright will lock generators. Or just going around the generator will cause it to lock. 45 seconds this is actually a nerf. I would have actually preferred just leaving these two alone. This is probably, by the way, to fix the infinite skill check, Merciless Storm or whatever it was. I didn't know about that. That was a bug. But, once again, they nerfed Dead Man Switch and gave you a little bit back by allowing you to use Pain Resonance with it. So, Dead Man Switch also got a nerf. But it still kind of works with Pain Resonance. Not something that was needed. They fixed the clown again, but these are the big things. Mainly covering Thanophobia and how this is just a knee-jerk reaction, guys. Absolute knee-jerk reaction to what was going on with Thana. And once again, I think this has spawned a lot by people playing against others that are not around their skill level. That's just the way it goes, guys. But yeah, it's kind of interesting just looking at this. It was almost inevitable that they're going to do a knee-jerk reaction because there's a lot of people freaking out right now. Even though you can start to see MMR starting to be aligned properly. Based on watching killers on Twitch, you can start seeing them having problems, more problems than they were 2 weeks ago for sure, when the patch dropped. Yeah. Be interesting to see where things go, but this is a knee-jerk reaction. I expected them to nerf other things outside of this. There's a lot of people talking about regressing the, reverting the patch, or reverting like the 10 seconds on gens. Yeah, that's not what's. I'm pretty sure that's not what's happening. It definitely feels like people are at the wrong MMR fighting people. Like my first day of patch, guys, we were fighting against people that like didn't know how to loop, and that got progressively a lot worse when we played for like 2 days in. Is when things started getting hard again. Because once again, I'm pretty sure it was an MMR reset, and playing 30 games or so, 20 games or so would take you back to full MMR, assuming you play the same character, which we play Nemesis a lot. Yeah. So, I think this was a bit hasty, but it's just to placate the survivor mains once again, who think that the world is ending right now. Meanwhile, you can watch other survivor mains that are having no problems with the patch, so... yeah. Once again, I think this has a lot to do with people being at the wrong MMR. A lot to do with that, guys. Okay. Anyways, guys, let's move along here. We're going to take a look at a tube video, and... then we're going to do some uploads. Daily uploads now. We've gotten past the point of... Highlight uploads. Mmm. Carbonated water, tasty. I'm sure it's safe to drink. We'll take a look at Strange Parts a day or two, or tomorrow, maybe. Tomorrow, same thing with mental health. We'll take a look at this video too. We're too late into the evening to take a look at that, especially after covering patch notes, so. We'll take a look at Tom Scott, and we're going to do some uploads, guys, and then we're going to play some Riftbreaker here. Yeah. Tomorrow or the day after. Strange Parts, he used to be a kind of DIY tech channel, and he ended up with a brain injury, and now basically his channel's kaputski because he's having a lot of problems, and he's getting a lot of, apparently medicine, and kind of tying that into his channel now. He doesn't really release videos anymore. He had a pretty cool channel, he had pretty cool videos too. And unfortunately, it kind of went the way of the dodo. Let's take a look at Tom Scott, and then we'll move along.
The town of Soda Springs, Idaho, in the USA, lives up to its name. Because here, in Geyser Park, in the center of town, there is a geyser that shoots soda water up into the sky. As in carbonated water, seltzer, sparkling water, whatever you want to call it. The stuff you'd find in a bottle. The geyser here isn't boiling, that's not steam. Underneath the town, there's a natural reservoir of carbonated mineral water. But while the water is natural, the geyser is man-made and accidental.
In 1937, a group of local businessmen started talking about a pool for Soda Springs. And they started drilling. They were about out of money and about out of 8-inch pipe. They were down 315 feet, and they quit for the evening. They were having dinner, and they heard this loud noise. They saw this column of water shooting into the air and a crowd gathering. The businesses downtown were getting kind of anxious because water was going everywhere. It was in the middle of December. And then they had to figure out how to cap it. It took them about 2 weeks. When they stopped drilling, they were right next to the water, but they were in a pocket of CO2 gas. And as they stopped, they combined, and that formed the pressure that released it. The CO2 gas also cooled the water to where it was not hot enough for a swimming pool.
Turns out natural carbonated water is a thing that happens in a few places around the world where there's underground water and carbon dioxide held at pressure. The geyser wasn't a complete surprise. I mean, in the moment, it probably was, but the town had already called Soda Springs for decades because there were natural carbonated springs near here that you could bathe in. The first English language accounts date from the days of the Oregon Trail, which passed through this area, although the springs were used well before European settlers ever got to the area.
The pioneers would pick the warm springs out to do laundry, and they would mix their flour to make their bread with the Soda Springs because they didn't need yeast and their bread would rise. And of the hundreds of springs that were here when the early pioneers came through, there are 5 that I know of left that have soda water. The majority of those springs were covered up in 1923 when they built the Alexander Dam. The rest of them, spring was in the way, it got filled in and covered over. At one time they bottled the water, not from any of the springs the city has, but they bottled it and sold it worldwide.
So when this thing started, it wasn't so much a geyser as it was a blown out well, putting out enough water to flood parts of the town with seltzer. The entire underground reservoir was pushing up through the borehole.
The geyser ran continuously for a while, and the officials at the park must have said something about some irregularities in Old Faithful, and the Secretary of the Interior sent a telegram to the city offices telling them to shut the geyser off immediately and notify them they had done that. So they did, and then it was determined that had no impact on the geyser basin, and so they give them back the permission to operate the geyser. When I was a boy in the 1960s, a city employee would go into a little shed where the control for the valve was and manually turn the valve on and manually turn it off. If the wind was blowing towards town, he was not supposed to turn it on. Now they have a electronic timer, and it goes off every hour on the hour.
Someone realised that if they put a timer valve on their new geyser, well, that could be a pretty good tourist attraction. And the result is this colossal 20-metre eruption.
That looks wet as shit.
For 8 minutes, on the hour, every hour. All the orange stuff around it is travertine, mineral deposits that have built up over the years, because this is mineral water.
You don't want to park your car where it might get overspray from the geyser because of the mineral in the water. If you did that over time, you'd have a real problem getting that hard water off. Some of the graves on the northeast corner of the cemetery have been impacted by the overspray as the walkway around it, it's all coated in a rock. The headstones, some of them are not readable anymore.
The town's publicity says that this is the world's only captive geyser. That does depend on how you define it. There's a couple of places in Germany that would probably take issue with that. It does seem to be
Wiggle
only in
words,
America,
guys.
and as far as I can
Weasel
tell,
words?
it's the only
Weasel
one
words?
on a regular timer, where the public can just turn up and watch for no admission fee. And I know, the obvious question is, what does that water taste like? I could try and stand over there with a glass for the next eruption, catch the water, get soaked, but I don't need to. Because at Octagon Springs, on the other side of the railway tracks, the city has thoughtfully provided a little ramp, and you can just get a glass. That's really nice. I don't know what I was expecting. That's just nice, lightly carbonated water. It's not too fizzy. That's... I'll happily buy that in a bottle.
Ah, and then you realize chemical contaminants have leaked down into it. And Tom Scott's not dead. Ah, good. Oh, look at that eruption, guys. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, yeah. Just like me every night. Guys erupts every hour on the hour, just like me. Actually, that'd be kind of... I don't want to erupt every hour on the hour. That's fine. Good. Ah, Tom Scott's video, pretty cool. Generally talks about stuff, random things from around the world, different stuff and things and stuff. Usually short little videos. You could probably put these on TikTok. People wouldn't get bored of them. TikTok and like Reels have I've noticed have slowly started devolving into people reacting to other people, but not reacting to other people like they're really reacting. They just put their face in the video and do like nothing. They just sit there and then basically just repost someone else's content as their own content by having their face in it just to get paid for it. Like, you think they'd start cracking down on that, but I mean, even prior to reaction videos, which aren't even reaction videos anymore, prior to that, there's just people that were like they capture someone else's TikTok, you know, with the video capture software, and then they just repost it with like words over it or something as their own content. Pretty terrible shit, guys. Horrible. Good. Okay, let's do some uploads. We have uploads, guys. Alrighty. Okay, so we did highlights. We have highlighted everything. Now we are going to do broadcasts. Ah, yes, the daily broadcasts. We only have 53 of these. They expire every day, guys. I wasn't planning on uploading my content to YouTube, my daily streams to YouTube, but we're going to do it because I can. So, why not? As it would go, and we're just going to put it in a separate playlist. Let's see how to do this. Export daily Eh. Oh my god, look at all the video counts. Annie, it's so big. What should I rate these? Podcasts. Full stream including podcast prior to gaming. How do I want to do these? I don't know if I want to put them under podcasts, because podcasts are generally directional content that's aimed at a certain, like show about something, right? Kind of what my pre-stream is, but also sometimes not. Depends on what's going on in life. Full stream including podcast prior to gaming. I don't know if I want to go through each and every one though, because sometimes we stream and we don't actually there's no gaming content in it. Like if I'm going through a review or a recap of what's happening around me, like I have some day-to-day life stuff going on, which I normally like covering on stream. Also, it's kind of loud, guys, because it's hot as shit right now, and I have a bunch of fans on. Okay, we'll just do full stream, including podcast prior to gaming. So we're going to raise concern. June 4th, 2022, DVD, Twitch. June 5th. June 7th. June 8th. Let's see. 11th. Yeah. All right, let's take a peek here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to preface the videos with full stream. Even though it's in a playlist, I don't think that's generally always how people see your stuff on your channel. Ah, look, Ben Sam pronouncing coup de grace properly, unlike other people calling cut the grass and other stupid things. You have to scream Nemi Punchu while it's happening, or coup de grace. Either or. And people are doing neither. Builds 4K bad. Heck. Driver sympathizers in another castle. All right. I am questioning whether or not I should upload these. Still questioning. You watch like a full video, a full stream when it's not live, it's not really the same thing. Hmm. Okay, survivor sympathizer. Alrighty. .13th. Did I put 2021 in some of these? Yeah. June 13th, June 14th. June 15th. .17th. June 18th. Right, June 18th. June 19th. June 20. I think Fortnite was like further back than 2 months. I don't think No Builds was in June, was it? It was like in May. June 22nd. I have to remember to change the tag to in the game from DVD to Riftbreaker. Riftbreaker we've only been streaming for like the last 4 days or so. They've been streaming. June 23rd. Let's see what the tags are. Rift Breaker 931. Rift Breaker 1.6. On the name. I guess they're a Swedish company or something? It is accurate. It's more accurate. It doesn't sound as good, though. It's just like a filler word. Most of the time, you don't need it. Okay. We are... Leave. The endurance effects. I don't give 8 hook states. Drivers what they want. Yes. Driver sympathizer. I have to make sure it doesn't upload twice. Hey look, it uploaded twice. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've seen it happens whenever I refresh the channel content page as exports on your way. I don't know. Very, very weird. And just delete copies? Yeah, it doesn't help though when you're trying to streamline stuff because you're exporting it. Yeah. Sympathizer. I feel like I should remove the preface, this. That. What we're gonna do to make it more palatable. Matters for Twitch. We aren't on Twitch. Nation points too. Okay. There might be a tag to use for full streams too. Continue to watch me process content Twitch. Thank you. Almost done. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. There's a couple more days of this. Was a chore. Peeking all these now. Yep. Alrighty. Alright, let's schedule them. 12. Fucking box that pops up and sits there on your screen forever is annoying as fuck. You need to sit there for like 2 seconds after you move. His little screen update thing. Alrighty. Good for now. Let's play some Riftbreaker, guys. Actually, we're going to do Reddit's first, and then we'll play some Riftbreaker. Almost there. Let's take a look at what's going on in the Reddits, guys, and go from there. It's kind of nice that there's actually like a cheater plague going on, like a rage cheater plague that's going on with DVD. Right now, I'm actually curious whether or not I get rage cheaters, or if it's somehow related to people advertising and becoming very visible. Their stream is very visible in the actual game itself. Kind of curious. That started happening after I took a break. Overwatch Reddits. We'll go back to it soon enough, though. AMD Reddits. 7,000 series launching this quarter. Oh my god, but what about the 3D cache? Ooh, can't wait, guys. Not necessarily the 7,000 series, but the 7,000 series X 3D. The 3D is important because it is a ginormous, gigantic, huge, that's what she said, cache on one of the cores, or sometimes two of the cores. And that helps with 0.1%, 1% frame time, which is stutters, so fluidity. Very much looking forward to it. I wasn't necessarily going to upgrade to the 7,000 series, but definitely going to upgrade to the 3D cache, which is going to be with the 7,000 series anyways. September to December. This quarter would be August. Actually, no, Q2. Okay. Later this quarter, I'd actually, yeah, September. It's not in August. We might see the 4,000 series from NVIDIA this month, though. Interesting. Zen 4 7000 series launch is September 15th at $800 for Ryzen 7950, Ryzen 7800 X3D, and 7950 purported 3. I swear some of these rumor websites, guys, don't even have a source. They just post random shit. X 550. Most websites that are rumoring about the 3D cache, or the X3D, is that it's going to launch in November or December, later after the 7000 series launches, which would make sense considering how long it took for the 5800 X3D to show up. It might be a little bit behind the production of the 7000 series, which would make perfect sense. Interesting. Looking forward to it, guys. Ooh, this fall's going to be pretty good for new hardware. Oh, and there's also Intel GPUs for who cares about that. Which should be, they haven't released their high-end offerings, but they should be sometime this month or next month. Credits? Nope. DVD Reddits. Toxicity is a huge problem in this community. Okay. It is, especially if you play Killer. Is it mainly Killer or Survivor that's whining? But it's Killer. Oh, it's a Survivor saying that tunneling and camping is toxic. Body blocking people in corners. And matching flashlight Feng Men's. Just literally just rotate the game. Well, this is the most toxic game I've ever played. People can say what they want about League of Legends, about CSGO ranked, Overwatch ranked, especially not CSGO ranked. Overwatch ranked, HOTS. Definitely the most toxic game I've ever experienced, mainly because a lot of it's passive-aggressive bullshit. It's not just people yelling at you and trying to get you to do what they want. A lot of it's passive-aggressive, gaslighting, brainwashing bullshit. Medal of Man nerf has completely demoralized me. He's talking because conspicuous actions are added to it. I guess. Just when Metal Man activates, which would be on your second hit. It's not after your first one. Oh, they're talking about the Aura Edition. Yes. I mean, if you're going for a body block, it doesn't matter. You're just going to body block anyways. And then you'll take a hit. And then you'll just move on your merry way. Just like with OTR. Balance patch in a nutshell. And only viable for Legion and Egg was too strong, so we nerfed Metal Man. What? The new Than is not even viable for Legion or maybe for Plague, but probably not. Even then, like, you're gonna risk having 4 people that are hurt to get a 20% reduction. You wouldn't do that. It's just a waste of playing with fire right there. Why would you do that? Nope. Okay. Let's move along, guys. On to Riftbreaker. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick here, guys. And then we will play some. We're going to do some tweaking tonight, too. So we aren't going to just play it. Right away. I have to tweak the waves and figure out if there's a way that we can increase performance a bit. Some of the waves are getting atrocious. And it's not that I'm running out of like CPU overhead or GPU overhead. Something in the engine's getting clogged, and we need to figure out if we can fix that. Alright, guys. But that's inevitable with 2000%. I'm going to use the bathroom, guys. I will be right back in a bit. Enjoy the music. Oh, where'd you go, Mr. Streamer? Oh, don't worry, guys. I'm here for you. Don't you worry. Ah, yes. Oop. Good, good. Okay. Much better. We're gonna move on to some Riftbreaker. My pants are very clingy right now. Right. Okay, so we're gonna see what kind of performance we get right now while in game, and then I think we're gonna, well, obviously it's gonna explode, but we're gonna do some reloading. I saved right before the wave start, or right as the wave started, so we should have something relatively comparable. We'll see if there's any in-game performance options that are gonna change shit. Yeah, I agree. I don't know, like, they probably, it's a little bit ambitious. Their release category is a little bit ambitious considering this game is kind of a one and done, meaning that people aren't really gonna pay. Like, I'll pay for the DLC because I like the game and I think you should support games that you enjoy. But as it turns out, like, the game doesn't have really that much replayability. It kind of does, but at the end of the day, like, it still lacks, like, fundamental game balance is kind of broken. Not necessarily like the bugs have to win, but rather you need to have upgrade paths that make sense, and some things just don't make sense in terms of the game. The turret balance kind of sucks too. But putting that aside, there's only so much demand for last stand games like this, and it's just like sim games like 2 Point Hospital. We talk about Sim City, Cities XL. Like, there's only, it fits this very niche category, and there's only so many people that are going to want to play it, right? So for a long-term monetary support, like for their company, they have to figure out a way of monetizing. They probably figured out after the fact that, like, it went and then went whoop like that, one of those things, because there just aren't people buying the game anymore because everyone bought it already. So you either have to work on the second game, which is normally what single-player companies do, or they have to release a constant stream of DLC, which they kind of really haven't done. This is the first DLC which is released now, which is almost 9 months after the original game. That's a lot of development time. Co-op, I think, would be very useful, but once again, you have to basically have friends, or I guess if there's a matchmaker, you could find other people online that want to work with you, and you could do things like a hot drop, like where someone drops into an already existing game, right? And you could have an open hot seat, as it's called. I think Civ has open hot seats, for instance, so you can pick up someone else's civilization if they decide to quit, which is a good idea. But there's a lot of things you can do, even if your game's not very linear in terms of, you know, focus, right? You can do other things to allow people to ad hoc into the game and not just, you know, have like, oh, someone just rage quits, right? No, you can do other things to allow people to join in. But co-op, I think, is very good. I think co-op would be very, very... You saw, like, in the games that I'm playing, putting aside the fact that I'm now running, like, 2 FPS, in the games that I'm playing, it would be incredibly helpful if I had someone that could rebuild walls. And it's not necessarily because I don't have resources to rebuild walls, it's because I have to go around my entire fucking base rebuilding stuff, and that takes time before the next wave arrives. Like, even 2 people would allow people to split up tasks and obviously play a harder difficulty. Couch co-op would work too, yeah. If you can't, because couch co-op would be easier than doing a full multiplayer experience. I don't think this is the Unreal Engine, because this is the Unreal Engine, basically multiplayer is baked into the game. So it could be that they're having problems implementing it and synchronizing everything. Okay, so the wave just spawned. It is, as you can see here in this screenshot, it actually captured, this is kind of funny, like when it saves a screenshot, it saves your whole screen. It captured my, my Afterburner overlay. Look at that, that's pretty interesting. You can actually see I'm getting 24 FPS, and this is before things get horrible. And it's not, just because it's rendering at 24 FPS does not mean the game's running at 24 FPS. The in-game engine can be running slower than, the FPS is 24, but that does not mean you're getting 24, like the game's running at, like, full speed. It can be running slower than full speed, which is something that they used to do in, shit, what's the name of the game? Supreme Commander. something they used to do in Supreme Commander, and they also do in other games like Eve, for instance, when there's too much shit going on, it'll slug. Yeah, Riftbreaker's more fun. I don't think this is mainly about getting to the top of the pyramid. There's other games that do it better. I call like Factorio, Anno, or basically like spreadsheet simulators is about building perfect ratios, and that's not fun. Factorio, one of the reasons I've never really played it is because the PvE element is oftentimes extremely lackluster. It doesn't feel like it's all that interesting. It's just ratio building. Having a certain percent of buildings to other buildings, or a certain ratio of buildings to other buildings. But yeah, I think balance could help make things more interesting, and on top of it, obviously co-op. There's a lot of ways that you could make the game more fun and making the AI for the mobs smarter. But then, of course, your bases would have to be built differently. Let's take a look here, guys. Let's take a look at how slow things are moving, and we're obviously going to lose this wave, but this is just to see if we can improve performance. I have some variables that I can tweak, and it might do something, and it might not. We'll see. I'm going to try turning down textures. I don't think that's going to matter at all. And also decals and dead bodies. I don't think either of those matter. We're going to have to wait a little bit to get into the wave. What is GFN? Games for Narnia? Yeah, I mean, this game was basically intended to be like a tech demo. I don't think anyone really took this game seriously. I didn't. Yep. So I'm actually getting 180 FPS with a lot of stuttering, but the game, as you can see, is not running at full speed. And core-wise, I have like 2 cores sitting at like 80%, and the other cores are like at 60. Ah, it's so much faster on the menu. There aren't any dead bodies yet, because nothing's even reached my base. Can't change the texture quality. FPS has not changed at all. Oh my god, my map looks like shit. That. Made lag worse. I think reloading in the middle of this wave has actually made lag worse. Feels slower than it was yesterday. I really need to upgrade my weapons. I was running at 500% prior to DLC. I've heard reports that the game's gotten worse performance-wise after the DLC, but this is 2,000%, and I don't think that's an apples-to-apples comparison. Sometimes you can find a weird bottleneck in a game, because obviously it's not my CPU and it's not my GPU. You can find a weird bottleneck in the game that isn't like linear in relationship. this hasn't changed anything. This might help with, like, dead bodies, maybe, eventually. Let's go main menu. GeForce Now. That's the one where you play on, like, cloud gaming? Let's change this back. Try tweaking some INI options here that I saw. I don't think this was it. This one. Okay. Different. So initial would imply that it might change. Intense, initial win. Threads in here. 2 threads actually. One's for physics. First manager thread count. And then physics worker thread count. 12. And then change this to 12. Crash my game. Okay. Sometimes there's weird settings that you have to actually set. Like, if you guys didn't know, if you play a COD, I don't know if it's still the way it is, but if you play Warzone, there's actually a setting you have to tweak to use all your cores if you have more than 8. True story, actually more than 6. Well, that didn't work. That's kind of weird. Huh. What do you suppose did that? I don't know, guys. Guess it didn't like what I did. Weird. Eh. Back to 4 and then try it and flip it. Physics. I didn't know the game used physics. Physics kind of old, antiquated. Voted this time. See if we can crash it again. Look how it makes everything tiny. Resource manager thread count, 12. Ah! Game data modifications detected. Oh. Weird. That's okay. They don't need to see that. Let's try 8. This might actually be related to the 2, so you have to increase this by maybe a factor of that. It's like a ratio. Do I have an idea what to do? No. It loads with 8. Why do you suppose that is, guys? It doesn't load with 12. I actually have 12 cores. Let's try 10. Making everything tiny. Cool. That's great. I think they're related. It must be some sort of ratio. Not like 10. 8 is a multiple of 4. Well, 3 is a multiple of 4, but it's not double. Test this out and see if we go 16. Be related to that. We'll try that next. Fucking loaded. Very weird. Did I save it? I don't know if I saved the INI after I changed it. It has an asterisk if you don't save it. So it has to be a multiple of 2 on the base value. This one doesn't. Try launching it again. It seemed like it stuttered like it was going to explode, but then it didn't. .48 divisible by 16? No. Yeah, it is. It's divided by 3. Because 16 times 3 would be 48. 16 times 2 is 32. Oh, crashed this time. Maybe I didn't save it. Try 96. Be 2 times 48. So maybe I didn't save it? That's kind of weird. It loaded, though. Like 8. If the 96 is what's crashing things. And it works. It sounds, the name sounds familiar. I don't know what it is, though. Price game. Do you really need to do that? So 8 and 96 works. Oh, 48 and 16. Oh yeah, what'd they do? Turn the Valve servers back on? Hmm. Try 8 and then 96. Doubling both. No idea what we can do here if this is still horrible in game. Yeah? Okay. Sounds like I'm clicking on a clickbait article right here, Agent. Next. I'm clicking next. I'm looking at your ad. Click next. Next. With these 3 easy steps, they'll fix... Oh. Okay. Like that. I can't tell if it's crashing because of the 8 or the 48. Worked at 896 before. I mean, listening to your feedback doesn't mean you can actually accomplish what people want. And by the way, just because you're paying attention to all the feedback the community makes does not necessarily... By the way, people think that listening to feedback means doing what they want. Like, when someone says listen, they don't mean listen. They don't mean actually just, like, listen to what they're saying. They mean do what I want. So, oftentimes streamers will say they don't listen to their community, when in fact they just mean they aren't doing what they want. Streamers definitely do not always know what's a good idea in game development. Okay, let's try loading like this, guys, and see what happens. But anyways, what were you saying? What is their plan to fix it? Or was that just it? They're just listening to the community? That the moral of the story is just listening to the community? Because there's a lot of streamers, by the way. Oftentimes, whoever has the most viewers will just be the loudest voice in the community. And it'll just be whoever listens to it, despite not being right. Just because you have the most viewers does not necessarily mean that you're the most correct individual as far as what game balance goes. Yeah. Fortunately. Lord of the Flies, though. That's basically what Twitch has come down to, for the most part. It seems like it loaded faster than last time. I see. Uh-huh. Normally what happens when it looks like your GPU has just shit itself. I don't That's my GPU. I think we fuxered something in the game. Definitely faster than it was before, though. This is definitely faster. See if we can fix this shit. Exit, yes. That might be a physics bug. And if they're using like particle emitters or something weird. Okay. So we did that. Let's change this back to 4. Unless my GPU is actually dying. That was weird. Could be my GPU's actually dying, guys. Game definitely has like 2 main workers you can see is on core 1 and core 2 that it uses, and then tries to offload stuff to other cores, but it's basically 2 cores on my processor that are being utilized. More than other ones. Well, that fixed the weird shit. Again. It feels a little bit faster. Still 2 cores. At least the game's not glitching out now. Sounds slower. It sounds like it moving and hitting slower than it was. So if you save the game after a wave starts, it actually makes things slower for sure. There's some sort of streamlining it must do in the background. Loading into a wave is terrible. I'm sure this would be fine in a normal wave, but it's actually, this is worse than it was last night. I ain't getting any fucking meat from that. Please, game. I need meat to function. Okay. That feels better, but still not that great. We're going to do 2 different things here. We'll see if that even did anything. Yeah, roadmap stuff. I mean, PlanetSide 2's done roadmap stuff and then just completely missed the mark over and over and over again. Settings, no. Figures, sound, physics, CPU. You're like, I didn't even remember that setting existed. I know. Always ahead of the curve. Max logic updates per frame. I'll take a look at that. Am I trying to make it slower? No, I would prefer closer to real time as humanly possible. Am I trying to make it slower? Are there people that actually do that? I think you can actually slow it down. There's a command, if I remember right. There's a game time command. Oh. I remember looking at that when I was trying to figure out how to fucking get rid of gravity rocks. Fuck gravity rocks. Alright, let's see what we have for performance now. But yeah, I mean, people can oftentimes people think that if they're listened to, it's going to make a great game because people are full of themselves and generally narcissistic, and that's not the way game development works. I was probably one of the first times that I was ever exposed to community game development, i.e. the community has a large say in what happens to the game, was Tribes Vengeance, and that was a dumpster fire. The dev team listened to Tribes, listened to the community, because the Tribes community obviously was very encrusted and elitist, listened to the community, and they just made an absolute horrid game. Absolutely terrible. This is prior to Tribes Ascend. This was after Tribes 2. It was absolutely terrible. Phenomenally terrible. And like the couple things that they got right was like this, the Stormbreaker spin fuse or whatever you want to call it. That was pretty bad. It does feel slower now. Well, maybe it's about the same speed. That might not have changed anything. It might be placebo. I have to judge, because obviously my FPS up here has nothing to do with the game time. I have to judge how fast the game time's moving based on things like walking, the sound, and me punching. So, this does feel slower. I don't know. Not. Really stay around my base, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna restart. Eat my meat. I don't think they're even dropping shit. Like, these guys normally drop meat, but I don't think they're dropping shit because it's so laggy. Like, the game just despawns the stuff they're dropping immediately. Oh, we got 13 biomass. We got hit. Okay. As it turns out, we did not find the answer. So those two CPU cores are just overloaded as shit. Well, not even overloaded, they're just at 90%, so they aren't even maxed out all the time. It did not fix anything, guys. Okay, let's try changing this to 2 and see if we can crash the game. Be a huge increase in performance if it's related to the internal. Yeah, when I was playing, that was back when I was really young. It was like when I was 14 or something. I realized what basically the community complained constantly, over and over and over again, about the developers not listening to them and not doing what they want. Don't be like those other guys. Made basically the kind of game that the loudest vocal minority in the community could want, and it was terrible. Why does it look like the magma power plant's putting lava back into lava river? Ugh, that's not accurate. Look at that in the bottom right corner. There's supposed to be a pump there. Please. Alright. Did you explode, game? Looks stuttery as fuck. Definitely a little bit stuttery. Question is it faster though? Kind of feels faster. I'm pretty sure things are faster right now, guys, but this is juddery as shit. I don't know if this is better. Because now it's like going like this. I don't know if you guys can see it. But it's definitely slideshow-esque. Weird that my roll my CPU or my GPU graph in the top right is not capturing the lows. Like it just shows like the high FPS, but doesn't show those massive spikes. Like it should capture one at some point. Looks like 51. It goes from like 160 to 51, maybe. It feels lower than that. Definitely not 50. So it does feel like this is faster, but at the cost of my sanity. Once again, there's just two cores doing their thing. Yeah, this does feel faster, but it is like every other frame. Sometimes my key presses don't register. Okay. That's a problem. Yeah. Use packed volume unit spawner. Four, guys. Also, since this didn't do anything, we'll go back to GPU physics. Just to make sure nothing's happening. Oh, there's texture quality. I don't think this matters, though. Can't change this in game for some reason. Ambient occlusion is on. It shouldn't be. Shits and giggles. Oh. This title was basically made for DirectX 12, so I highly doubt it's like one of the poster child for DirectX 12 and performance benefits of it. So I doubt this is gonna be better. The change you can see in the top right. For what that's worth. Sometimes there's weird performance bugs, and DX11 will be better, especially in if the title wasn't made for it. DX11 will be better than 12, but probably not for this. And assumingly that won't even affect things either. It's definitely the engine in the background with the units. It's nothing to do with graphical rendering. Sometimes weird things can happen, which is why you check it out. Weird interactions. Are all games like this or just Riftbreaker? What do you mean by that? You mean you have to tweak? Sometimes you have to tweak them. Sometimes they set settings relatively conservatively because they want it to be playable on like a 4-core system. So I don't have a 4-core system. My GPU load is actually lower than it was. Normally I was about 30%. For whatever that's worth. Ah, you're seeing some of the lows sometimes. It goes down to 8 FPS. That seems accurate. No, this is because I'm running 2,000 size, 2,000% waves. These waves are 20 times the normal size in the game. This is like literally pushing the game just to see what it can do. I was hoping maybe it would be more playable than this. This is pretty, It actually feels like it's faster, but I don't think it's related to DirectX, by the way. What? They're in front. Okay. I think we're in artillery range now. Can't hit my one. There it goes. Yeah, the motion sickness is pretty bad with this. Once again, because it is so stuttery. Just watch it on low quality, and you won't be able to tell what's going on. Just turn down the resolution on my stream, and you'll be fine. If it looks like eye cancer, then you can't tell apart the FPS, you know? I think this has something to do with it doing more updates per cycle, so that when it hiccups, it does like more work or something before it raises the FPS. The game's definitely waiting on the CPU to That's sweet. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Roll! Oh, there's a hippo. I have to go through here, guys. Okay. Oh, hey, it's fine now. So we've successfully accomplished absolutely nothing. Cool. I like it, guys. Change this back to 1. Like, unfortunately, because this game is so like niche, there's almost no posts on like improving performance. Normally, you can find someone that like gets they tweak some settings and they find something that kind of works out. Stutteriness, I'm pretty sure, is being caused by that setting right there. Data quality didn't change anything. Might have been a reason I had ambient occlusion on. It doesn't really change. Oh, that's why we had higher FPS. Nothing to do with the... But yeah, basically we're pushing the game into the breaking point. 500% wasn't even this bad. And I know people are talking about the performance being worse after the update. I don't know if that's the case or not, because we're playing at 2,000%. Didn't really feel that way in the campaign. Campaign waves are relatively small, so... That's unfortunate, guys. Like I said, I was hoping to do 2,000%, and I really don't mind low FPS, but it's getting to the point where you're running the game at maybe like a fifth the normal speed or an eighth the normal speed, and it takes a really, really long time to do attempts, basically. So the stuttering should now be gone. However, the game's going to be slow as shit, so. I know, sometimes, what? Sometimes a game is made with, as I mentioned, conservative settings, so it's made for people with like maybe a 6-core processor nowadays. And they don't want to choke it out. So it'll perform better at certain settings rather than higher ones. Yeah, so now the stuttering is gone. But this definitely feels slower. Wonder if there's a way I can break this. Let's find out. Do some weird shit. Why is Edge running? Edge running in the background. Bye. Ah! There we go. Much better. Let's go down here to Riftbreaker. Is it just R or T? Nope, okay. Set affinity. Let's turn off 0 and 1 and see what it does. It's probably gonna explode. So 0 and 1 were my most used cores, so it should have moved into other cores, and it's hoping maybe it would kind of mess up the scheduler internally. It doesn't look like it changed much of anything. It actually looks like it's balanced better across all my other 10 cores, though. Is this faster? No. Yeah, so the frame effect is gone now. That had something to do with the amount of work per frame it can do. It's slow as fuck. This kind of got this way last night because their waves keep getting bigger as the game progresses, obviously. I think if I got a better shotgun, like we'd actually... So I do work. I think we've came to the same conclusion before. Which is, while I do work... Yeah, so the whole reason they have it, like, I almost want to say the game, like, locked to one frame is so you don't get this stuttery, weird-ass stuttery effect that really makes, even though the game runs faster from the looks of it, it gets stuttery as fuck. These fire guys fucking suck my dick. Magma lizards or whatever they are. Oh yeah, Snake? I'm a time traveler. Look how slow time's going. I'm like fucking Neo in the Matrix here. I don't know why the bottom left corner is getting attacked right now. That's kind of weird. I really need fire-resistant armor too. That's something that matters less. I think better fist would be useful too. Obviously, you can get past a point too where you can kill stuff so fast it's not really that big of a deal, but we never got to that point. There we go. I don't know if those fire guys take magma damage or not. There's some, magma guys take gravity damage, not magma damage. Can I play Battle Royale? Not right now. Could you go play Battle Royale for me? Thank you. Unfortunately, now we got to build up golems in front. Guys. When those lava guys go into the ground too, they also cause damage. Oh, they already got a hole in front of my base somehow. I think everything just kind of fucking breaks down when it's this slow. Like, as I mentioned before, there's some weird shit going on with the repair logic. Fucking hippo. The repair forts don't work the same as they used to. We opened up the butt plug, guys. It's kind of amazing that the game can still function while this is going on. Some stuff is breaking down, though. Like, you can see the electrical connections are breaking down. As well as the repair facilities are definitely not functioning properly. I think they did something to clean up the repair AI, and it actually just caused the game to kind of shit itself for the... Trying to look as profitable as possible to get someone to buy them. They're pretty profitable. And for some reason, the game will speed up when you die, too. I'm still dying right now. Still dying. There we go. See, look, the game's speeding up now. For whatever reason, when you're dead, the game moves faster. What do you want? Unfortunately, it kind of feels like repair facilities are actually kind of Plaguey, because you need repair facilities no matter what, so you can't just not have repair facilities. Bitch, fuck off. Have a grenade. It's kind of a shame too, because there's like so many things I can optimize to make the game like improve my base and shit. But this is kind of game breaking at this point. Or I can't play the game anymore. Obviously, my own fault for playing at 200%, but we basically already beat 500%, so. Where the fuck are the hippos? I see the blobs from the hippos, but I don't actually see the hippos. They're wrapping the base right now. Going around the top edge of the base right now. But yeah, I don't know. Ubisoft's I think they're pretty profitable. They have all their shit series like Assassin's Creed that they can rely on. They have a bunch of sports games, if I recall. Let's roll back the opposite direction. There we go. We're getting too far away from the base. Unfortunately, like, I don't think this run is going to be successful even if we kill the mobs. The reasoning for that is because I needed to do some base work before this started and I didn't finish it. The intention of this was actually just to see if I can improve the performance of the game. Yeah, I need better fists, for sure. How the fuck is... Okay, this is the bottom. This is not the right side, this is the bottom of my base. They're in the bottom right. I was like, how is this still functioning properly? It's not. Would make you curious. So we might have to put this on hiatus and revisit this game when I get my new processor this fall. See if it makes a difference. Sometimes when you run into weird engine limitations, you can brute force it. And I wonder if the 3D cache can help with that. I think we talked about that with Agent yesterday. I was talking about that 2 days ago. Something like that. Like PlanetSide 2 had the same issue where the only way around it was literally just to get better performance is the only way to deal with it. Obviously, the developers could do stuff to improve it, but I don't think 2,000% is on their radar. I don't think they're like, hey man, what can we do to spawn 5,000, or actually more than that, 100,000 entities on the screen at the same time? I don't know, George. Considering like 1% of their player base has a 12-core processor, yeah. We should go in and go at the bottom right. Actually, I think I have a warp beacon there. Oh, it's gone. I'm about to die. Yeah, warp beacon. Okay. I guess they're in the base. I really needed stuff that works better against rock. Like, if I had to replay this series, a lot of different things I would do. Two things we have problems with are the rock golems and then also those fucking fire elemental things. There's probably a weapon that works really good. Corrosive's alright. My guess is maybe it's like laser or something. Ah, prepare for an incoming attack. Okay. base is gone, by the way. But we'll see what we can do. Learning experience. It's definitely getting faster. I think you get the next wave spawning when the last wave is spawned. Click. I just got kicked. Maybe hammers. Hammers generally work against crabs. They might work against these guys too. Oh, fuck God, look at all those guys. Like just sitting in back, shooting their shit. Resisting something. I don't know if that's corrosive or lightning they're resisting right now. It's getting faster, guys. Oh my God, we're near the end of the wave. For what that's worth. We might take a look at some mods here and see if there's anything that would help with performance. Kinda doubt it. Oh, there goes my rift. Oh, reached that. We lost, guys. Spoilers. It's gonna save you about 20. Oh, there it is. Nope. That's was not the answer. That was not the answer. Okay, so we've successfully tweaked basically nothing. Do some Googling. Performance mod. This is just random bullshit, by the way. I've looked at that already. Exmorph defense. This is from 2017, unrelated. Okay. Performance achieved, latest update. This, I think this is after I played last year. No change, I've looked at this already. Disable VSync, VSync's already off. And I don't think GP performance is an issue at all. Odds. Okay. Performance. FPS. Threads. Thread. Bug. Energy, a global resource. So build connections. Nope. More. There's a lot of people that just release basically a cheat version of stuff. Random weapon stats. Most of these are just cheat mods. Almost all these you can do in the game, too. I don't know why you'd even bother downloading a mod. Like, you can tweak the settings on survival. Railgun turrets can be built from the start and they're much more powerful. Okay. Lots of repair tower tweaks. Getting to repair tower 2 is very, very important. Which is why people want to do it instantly. All pumps. Automatically disables powers off factory mine buildings when the resource around is depleted. That's a quality of life thing right there. Better carbonium energy. It really makes me wish that carbonium was a better energy source. But there's a lot of energy sources in the game, so it doesn't really matter that much. Like animal power. Cheat mod? Okay. Why nobody made this if you smell what a rock is cooking? Okay. Game overhaul mod. It aims to rebalance the whole game in a great way and also have a few small edits that will help resource player escalating. Escalating? Player scaling? All buildings auto heal. All resources are infinite. Yeah. So they just make it so everything's super powerful. Good. I guess. No mods, apparently. FPS. Let's do some Googling, I guess. FPS. Horrible FPS. That's generally what people call, even though I was getting alright FPS, what was slowing down was what's happening in the background. the game worker. It's trying to calculate all the shit for the units, and it only does it on 2 cores. Double performance. Issues. Deleted. It's slowing down over time. Yeah, because the waves get stronger and have more units in them. So cultivators, I don't have cultivators. The drawing of all cultivator plants causes system slowdown. I suspect the plants are CPU drawn. There's no fucking way. A CPU when it comes to drawing geometry is insane. It has something to do with the physics interactions with each other. Plus place cultivators. Trying to choose a feature. Instead of dropping frames, we slow down the game pace so that the game logic can catch up to rendering. Yep, it causes lots of stuttering. Riftbreaker is a very CPU heavy game. I have a 12-core Ryzen, 5900X if you guys are curious. Sometimes the amount of enemies and other entities on the map is so overwhelming that the processor ends up needing more than allocated 16 ms to process, so the internally 16 ms is 60 FPS, by the way. So internally the engine runs at 16 ms, or excuse me, 60 FPS. And then it reduces it to 30. So basically half the time, it was definitely going slower than that. It must be linear. I'd say that internally the game was running maybe a fifth the normal speed, which would be like 4 or 5x slowdown. February 3rd this year. Yep, and we can see that other games do this as well. In that case, why does my CPU barely go 30% utilization on any of the cores? Like I said, I had 2 cores despite my having 12-core processor. The other 10 cores in my processor were sitting at about 50%, and 2 cores were sitting at 90%, so they have something going on with threading. Where two threads basically do the majority of the work, and then they get overloaded, and then the game slows down. We can't do that as navigation must be calculated after physics, as physics are after navigation. parallelization works. Curiosity would... or cores and or cache help. At 5900X, no, eventually it bottlenecks. I actually did think I was safe with 3 rows of walls and 4 rows of sword towers. Ah! And the angry memer. Do your job. Yep. Refunded the game. 10900K. Isn't really that great of a processor. 10,000 series, 9,000 series, 10,000 series, and 11,000 series are all very similar to each other. Just small clock speed boosts in IPC gains. March this year. It's like a 3900X. I think a 3900X is faster depending on the game you're talking about. Yep, refunded for whatever reason. I can't imagine it being that slow. I guess he has a shitload of cultivators. My main base in the campaign has like 4 cultivators in it, and it's fine. This game is amazing, no crash even on massive attacks and turrets and AI. Yep, but it slows down to nothing. Too many simulations. I don't know. So if you can't calculate things in, like you have to do things one after another, if things are off screen, maybe you could do it in grids. So you calculate one grid in parallel to another grid with basically one thread, or however many threads it runs on. Just talking about my ass here. Just telling you to turn down graphic options. I love the generic help posts that websites shit out that has little to nothing to do with the actual game, where they tell you the same exact shit. Maybe there's a console command we can do something or another. Ah, it's raining outside, guys. Nice. DX12, November 18th. We're already on DX12. Which, unrelated, that's just rendering. It's literally all the CPU calculations with all the units in the background. Gravity grenades. Mm-hmm. Mr. Riggs now is a stagger state if he attacks an enemy that an entity that is resistant to physical damage. Yeah, it's very annoying. When do you attack crabs? You get the crab crushers or hammers. Okay. Yeah, we're kind of pooped, guys. I don't think there's an answer to this. I think the answer is to wait for either a patch, which I don't think is coming. The game's been out for 9 months at this point, and they just released a DLC, so maybe they're going to do some performance tweaks. Is there a roadmap? There's one in, like, January. One in January, but I think that's kind of old at this point. They had co-op on here too, which they haven't released yet. Online co-op is top priority. Features in consideration. Performance isn't on here. I think we just basically broke the game is what it comes down to. I had too much going on. So maybe we'll have to take a look at this again, guys, when I get my new processor this fall. After the X3D comes out, or maybe this winter. It depends on when they release it. Otherwise, I think this is too fallow. As you guys saw, running the game at like a fifth the normal speed gets kind of taxing after a while. It gets very, very slow, and looks like there's nothing we can do about it. Might be a physics. I don't think physics is a problem, though. I think it's just the game trying to calculate the movement paths for all the units on the screen. We've talked about this before, guys, but there's actually another game that ran into the same problem. Was we've talked about this a couple different times over the years. Is Supreme Commander. And if you played the first Supreme Commander, where I also talked about the fact that they slowed down the game, when there is so much shit on the screen, the game will literally fucking grind to a halt. And not grind to a halt like 0 FPS, but like they would slow down the game time to process all the paths of the units. So even though Supreme Commander 2 was a very different game from the original Supreme Commander, what they did is they incorporated, there was an education or an academic paper that was written in a university about flow dynamics and how they can interact with multiple moving bodies. And they incorporated the research into their game, and it made Supreme Commander 2 has a lot of fucking units on the screen, and they have very, very fluid movement. Let's see, Supreme Commander movement. See, there was a video of it before. They might have taken it down. There you go. This. 2012, guys. Low field pathfinding. So this was from Supreme Commander 2 is a game with a lot of units in it. This is from an educational paper. We've looked at this before.
Hello, this is Chris Taylor, lead designer of Supreme Commander 2
Oh, they
at
fixed
Gas
it.
Powered Games. And today we are going to show you something phenomenal, our new flow field pathfinding system. All right, let's start off by showing you what has long been the established RTS pathfinding algorithm, the A-star. Now we take two large groups of units and we drive them right at each other.
Maybe I'll have to stop
here,
at their
they go in
Discord.
and start becoming very confused, trying to find their way around each other because the complexity of this is very high. They're trying to steer around another moving object, okay? But they do eventually find their way. Now let's take a look at the new flow field system developed here at Gas Powered Games based on the University of Washington's crowd continuum research. You can see the units form up without losing any speed, and they drift and breeze right through each other without missing a beat. And here, the ultimate example, large units moving through
Physics calculated large
smaller
units,
and having them
which is basically what's happening in
right
Riftbreaker.
around them and forming back up. In this example, we actually try to fool the Pathfinder and give a new order to
Isn't it
move
fucking
the
amazing? It
units
looks like
midway
fucking
through
water.
the Pathfind. And again, they
It's beautiful.
seamlessly flow. And finally, we have a recap here. And as you can see, this is
Typical
kind of
RTS
thing that really
is Supreme Commander 1.
changes the shape of RTS gaming. Thank you. Have
True
a
story.
great day, and we'll see you this March.
There's been
when
no other
Supreme Commander 2 hits
application-
the shelves. Take care.
Like, I haven't talked about this in forever because there's been no other application in which this has actually been an issue beyond Supreme Commander, because most games do not rely on large amounts of units. Maybe we'll just tweet this at them. I don't know if they check their Twitter or not. We'll tweet it at them and see what happens. But this is old, and this isn't unique to Supreme Commander. They actually sourced, like most game companies won't do this, they actually sourced where they got their research from. Like, where they actually, is the University of Ohio's paper? Crowd Continuum Pathfinding. Yeah. University of Washington? First engineered the pathfinding algorithm like he did with Age of Mythology. Talks about being based on crowd continuum pathfinding, but as far as I can tell, it's basically nonsense, though I could be certainly mistaken. Doesn't appear to be any kind of dynamic potential field. It does have basic static vector. So maybe it's not based on it. Maybe that was just fluff. Basic static vector field plus steering behavior. Perhaps a little bit of look ahead to discourage units from walking straight into each other. Okay. Just talking about impassibility. The point of doing that is work is multiple units with the same goal can use the same flow field moving. A group of 100 units has the same flow field generation cost as moving one unit. They'll move independently of each other. By the way, it functions literally that way in the game. You can have thousands of units on the screen and the game will not slow down. You can literally just like fucking walk through them. It's great shit. If you've, most people who stream on Twitch probably have not played Supreme Commander 1. But if you played Supreme Commander 1 and go into 2, even though they're very different games, it was night and day difference in terms of quality of life improvements on that game. I don't know if this is pseudo-knowledgeable bullshit or this guy actually knows what he's talking about. Unfortunate. There's a lot of people that are really, really good at bullshitting online now. I don't know why you'd want to write a long-winded post about this, though, if you don't have any idea what you're talking about, because it's very technical. Download something? I did download something. Download. What is the random shit on my desktop? Oh, that was, clip I made, a highlight I made. Cool. YouTube. Something doesn't need to be based completely on something else. It could be an interpretation of the research or part of the research instead of the full thing. He's asserting that Supreme Commander 2, the units basically act like Roombas. They just try to bump into each other and just randomly change directions till they get around whatever's in front of them.
Two groups of people cross one another in a hallway. One of the principal advantages of our model is that people recognize dynamic obstructions and plan ahead. To see why, we display the potential function for the group on the right. Valleys of low potential form as the people approach one another, becoming lanes. This can be seen clearly with tracers, circling clockwise. This type of vortex has been reported empirically in the crowd literature. Note that even under dense congestion, people can often find smoothly threading paths. We now compare our model to two agent-based systems. Notice that individuals in our model plan ahead for the area of high congestion. Increasing the radius of influence in an agent model still does not achieve this.
Vague inspiration is therefore nonsense. Okay. So basically says Supreme Commander 2's pathfinding system is bullshit, well, comparatively to crowd continuum pathfinding. But it still works exceptionally well for large battles. Kind of makes me want to play Supreme Commander 2 too. AI and pathfinding is atrocious in this game. Oh, that's Supreme Commander 1. Uh-huh. breaking down like a 14-year-old game. Cool. Supreme Commander release date 2007. 15 years old. Cool. Giant 4, totally agree, it's fantastic. StarCraft 2 is something similar. No, it doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. RTS games today use A-star pathfinding system. It calculates the most fuel-efficient way from one node to another. If the path at some point is blocked, recalculates the second most fuel-efficient way, and keeps going until it reaches the goal. StarCraft definitely gets bogged down by bunches of units. Games seem to have something in common. When path units intersect, they push units apart, and push seems to drift to a new location, yeah. Like a particle separation calculation. It. Economy. Okay. Alright, guys. So, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're able to go any further in Riftbreaker because our game basically slogs. It goes to a slideshow, and then obviously I can't do anything with it anymore. So, I think that's where we're going to call things for tonight. I think tomorrow, guys, we are going to be going back to Dead by Daylight. Unfortunately, our playthrough got cut a little bit short here, but I can't play at a fifth of normal speed, or quarter normal speed. That is very unenjoyable. Even if you lose, like, I don't even care if I lose because I get to try it again, right? But when your replays, you're punished for the time, it's very difficult to do. As I mentioned before, some of this I brought on myself because I'm operating at 2,000%, and if I was at 500%, the game would probably be playable as it was back when I played it, but we already beat 500%, so no reason for me to go back to do that. Yeah. So, guys, tomorrow we will be going back to Dead by Daylight, but I guess we're done with this until this fall when I get a new processor. But I don't have a slow processor to begin with, so this is basically like a technical limitation of the game. Unfortunately, despite Riftbreaker being a very technically advanced game and very shiny game, seems to have problems with large number of units. I'm going to tweet the shit at Riftbreaker and maybe get a response from them, or just tweet it at them and see what they do. Won't do anything. It doesn't matter. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, guys. Active. Yes, there. Active. Seem to care about their game too, so might get a surprise here, and maybe some of this tech will be integrated. I'm going to tweet at them both the Supreme Commander stuff and then the theory crafting that the other guy released to or talked about. It definitely looks like a technical breakdown of it, but maybe just leading them to the game itself, they can see what they're doing and then have an implementation, because it would definitely fucking help the game. I'm sure I'm not, like, people talk about the game slowing down, and I'm sure it's not just related to cultivators and just random shit, because it happens. We go from a perfectly playable game to an absolute slideshow based on the number of units that are operating. So, and Supreme Commander 2 has a boatload of units. You have a huge unit cap. So, yeah. Supreme Commander 2 found a way of dealing with this 10 years ago, so I assume they can figure out how to remake the wheel themselves. So, Unfortunately, we're done with things here tonight, guys. If you're new to the stream, you enjoyed the bullshit, you enjoyed the troubleshooting, you enjoyed watching me watch some development videos, make sure to follow up on the top right-hand corner. You stream every day from evening to late night, GMT-6, so 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time to 1 to 2 a.m., give or take, depends on my life, what's happening, etc., etc. As I mentioned, guys, tomorrow will be more, well, not more, we will be going back to Dibs, to the toxicity mess that is the Dibs. Yeah, re-warm up and get back into things, guys. But alrighty, guys, I'm out here for this evening, guys. Thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Have a good day, guys.